Today we're going to be taking notes on factor theorem. Factor theorem has to do with long division and synthetic division, and it specifically looks at the remainder. So according to factor theorem, if the remainder is equal to 0, then the divisor is a factor of the dividend. I'm going to do two examples. One, I'm going to use long division, and the other one, I'm going to use synthetic division, just so that we can review how the process goes. So the first problem I will do as long division. Here I have a polynomial 2x to the fourth minus 7x cubed minus 38x squared plus 103x plus 60. That polynomial is my dividend, and then x minus 3 is going to be my divisor. We're going to start by looking at our powers. So in the dividend, I have 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, so I don't need a placeholder in the dividend. And I didn't mention this in the previous videos, but you also need to check your divisor and make sure that it doesn't need a placeholder. So if you had a divisor that started with x cubed or x to the third, then you have to make sure that you have every single power that's smaller than that. And in this situation, my divisor is just x minus 3. So I don't need a placeholder because I have x to the first and then of course x to the 0. I've went ahead and set up my page for long division. I've placed the dividend under the house and the divisor outside the house. And now I have to start by making sure that my first term x matches my first term 2x to the fourth. So we know I got to multiply by 2, and I've also got to multiply by x cubed. So I'm going to put that up here, 2x cubed. I'm going to show my math out to the side. 2x cubed, x minus 3, and we're going to distribute this, so I get 2x to the fourth minus 6x to the third, and then we're going to subtract that from the dividend, so 2x to the fourth minus 6x to the third, and again, I'm going to place this inside of parentheses and distribute that negative sign, so I'm going to end up with 0. My first term's canceled, and then negative 7x cubed minus negative 6x cubed, which is actually addition, gives me negative 1x cubed. And I'm going to bring down everything else. Minus 38x squared plus 103x plus 60. And now I'm going to start the process all over again. I need to get negative x cubed, so I'm going to multiply my divisor by negative x squared. Again, come out to the side, show my work. Negative x squared times x minus 3 is equal to negative x cubed plus 3x squared. And again, we subtract that from the dividend, so negative x cubed plus 3x squared. I'm going to place that inside of parentheses. So negative minus a negative is actually addition, so my first terms cancel again. My second term, negative 38x squared minus 3x squared, now becomes negative 41 x squared, and I'm going to bring down the rest of the terms, plus 103x plus 60. And again, I need to make my first term match, so I'm going to multiply my divisor by negative 41x, and again, come out to the side, show my work for that, times x minus 3. So this gives me negative 41x squared plus 41 times 3, which is 123x, and then we subtract that from the dividend, so negative 41x squared plus 123x. I'm going to place that inside of parentheses, negative sign out front, so my first terms cancel like they should. My second term is 103x minus 123x, which leaves me with negative 20x plus 60. And now, of course, I'm just going to multiply the divisor by negative 20 times x minus 3. And this is going to give me negative 20x plus 60. So we bring that over here, negative 20x plus 60. I'm going to place that inside of parentheses. And here we end up with 0. So according to factor theorem, x minus 3 is a factor of the original polynomial. Well, what does that mean? That means at x equals positive 3, the graph is going to cross the x-axis. So to make this a little bit more clear, in the bottom right corner of the screen, I've placed a graph of this polynomial. I will admit to you that it's not the best graph because you can't see many of the features of this polynomial, but it does help me get my point across. So according to factor theorem, if I'm able to divide this polynomial by this factor right here, and if I get 0, what that tells me is that this is a factor of this polynomial, which in turn means that the polynomial crosses the x-axis at this x value. So here we have x equals 3, and look, my polynomial crosses. So factor theorem actually helps us find what the x-intercepts, we can also call them zeros, are of our polynomial. I'm going to do one more problem over factor theorem. Here I have my new polynomial. Again, this is my dividend. This is my divisor. I need to check my powers, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So nothing's missing here. And then again, x to the first, and there's not going to be any x behind 2. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up for synthetic division. Some quick notes. I went ahead and placed the 0 from my divisor into the little box, and I moved down all of my coefficients so we can go ahead and begin the process of synthetic division. Remember that nothing happens to the first coefficient, so you just bring it down. Then you multiply the first coefficient by 2. So I'll show that out to the side. 1 times 2 equals 2. You place that under the second coefficient, and you always add these two numbers together. So negative 1 plus 2 gives me positive 1. Now again, multiply this 1 by 2. So 1 by 2. This gives me 2. Place this under your next coefficient. So I'll place that under the 3. And then 3 plus 2 is 5. Again, multiply this 5 by 2. 5 times 2 is equal to 10. 10 is going to go under the next coefficient. So negative 6 plus 10 gives me 4. And again, 4 times 2 gives me 8. Place this under your last coefficient. Negative 6 plus 8 gives me 2. Remember, the last number in your answer is your remainder. So here we have a remainder of 2. So according to factor theorem, x minus 2 is not a factor of this polynomial. So if I were to look at the graph of this polynomial, I would not see the graph crossing the x-axis at 2. Thanks for watching.